previous lecture that we've seen was about the security of our faith. And we see that who God is, what He's saying, what's He doing, and what's happening when we listen to, when He talks to us, and on that we can build our faith. We've got a sinful nature. Do you have a sinful nature?
Yes.
Yes. We've got our own personalities, our own backgrounds, where we come from. We've got some education, or not some education, and all of these things provoke a carnal behavior through us. All of us are sometimes carnal. And our lecture is on the carnal Christian believer with the potential of faith, with the potential of his faith. Yes.
You said we all have our irritation.
All have?
Irritation
or indication or irritation?
What? All have?
You said we all have our sinful nature, we have our character, and we all have our, I think you said like some of irritation, but I didn't get that word.
No, I said we are the sinful nature, personality, and education, the background.
Okay.
Now, education, how we get educated in our homes, what we've learned, and even if it's good, it's bad, that's an influence on our life. Okay? So at first we look at the carnal Christian. How is it possible, subsequent to what is related in chapter 15? You remember what happened in chapter 15? It was a highlight in Abram's life. And after that, after what happened in chapter 15, all the things that he experienced, the Lord spoke to him, he talked to the Lord, and what happened in chapter 15, after all that, how is it possible to what is related in chapter 15 to the act of his carnality? How much time do you think elapsed between chapters 15 and 16? After that, sometimes we hear God's voice. Like you're sitting here, you hear all the truths about Abram, about his faith, the potential of his faith and everything. And you hear all of that and you say, that's the way I want to live. And then just the next day something happens. And you can't believe that you were doing that wrong thing. How much time elapsed? How soon does the carnal man forget what God has said? It was only 72 hours, according to some commentaries. So let us look at the three leading actors in chapter 16, namely Abram, Sarai, and Hagar. They were humans. You must always remember they were humans just like you and me. It could have been that I am Abram, and that Marie-Louise was Sarah, and Judith was, Hagar. But Abram wants a son. Sarai was frustrated, and Hagar, the ignorant and the innocent slave living in that house. Three normal people like you and me, with their own desires, with their own background. After 4,000 years, the human nature has not changed. We are living 4,000 years after these three people. But we are all the same humans like that. But God hasn't changed. God is still the same. In that times with those people hear all the right things. But the problem is this, listen now. They don't really go into a process of letting that what they hear become a part of their life. You've heard a lot these 4 or 5 days. And the week before that, with Brother Gert, the koning. You've heard a lot. And now if you don't process it in your life, then nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. They do their own planning without God. The word carnal is written all over these people's coming and goings and all the things they say yes for and no for. And you may well wonder, why didn't the Lord warn Abram? Abram, what are you doing? Going in, listening to your wife. Why is it that God didn't warn him? You find it in Genesis 16 verse 1. Now, Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. How much do you think that Sarai knows about chapter 15? It's proven over the years, over the ages, that a woman can make or break a man. I thank God for my wife. She's not always right. I don't always understand her. But I thank God for someone that's holding me back sometimes and leading me sometimes, but walking with me on the same narrow road. Abram hears, listen, the voice of his wife, not the voice of God. God is quiet. And nowhere, listen, you read chapter 16, and you will see nowhere in chapter 16 does the Lord speak to them, nor do they talk to him, asking him, Lord, will it be good if I go in with a slave and have a child? Because you gave us a promise, there's nothing going on, and please, will you help us? In verse 2 and verse 3 of that chapter, in Genesis 16, 2 and 3, and Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, praying is asking. Who is she praying to? Asking for Abram, not to God. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai, not to God. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar and maid the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband and Abram to be his wife. Now, Abram is a man. And you see the lust of the flesh always making me pay for the wrong things that I do. In Genesis 16 verse 4, you read, the lust of the flesh. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Now the three things of the devil, the way the devil comes to us to enjoy, to be, and to have. You find it in this chapter. The one that wants to enjoy. The other one to be. To be what? To be the mother of a child. The other one to have. Abram, I want to have a child. So it's the pleasure, the power, and to possess. You find again here in the sins and the carnality of Abram, and with Hagar, and with Sarai. All of these things are present there. For, listen now, for the following 16 years, 16 years is a long time. For the following 16 years, there were no harmony or peace or blessings in this household, it all ended in a painful separation that happens when Christians are carnally. You do a thing in carnally and then you pay the consequences of that. What was happening? Yes?
Where do you see that it's 16 years?
You'll find it later when Ishmael was 16 years, he sent them away. He sent Hagar and Ishmael away, and Hagar and Ishmael, you will later see if you read that Ishmael was mocking on Isaac when he was born. And also Hagar was, she was, I'm the lady in the house because it's my child. So there was no peace, there was no harmony, there was always quarreling in the house because of the child Ishmael that was born. Okay? So what happened? What was there in the house? Blame shifting. Listen to Genesis 16 verse 15. And Sarai said to Abram, she said to him, go into her. Now it's blame shifting. This thing that's happening in our house. And Sarai said unto Abram, my wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid into thy bosom, and when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. No more peace, no more harmony in the house. Because they didn't listen to the voice of God, they listened to the voice of each other. You okay?
Yes.
She could not constrain her tongue even anymore. If you read James 3 about the tongue, but however it did not end here. Sorry, read verse 6. But Abram said unto Sarai, you see what's happening now? There's indifference between them. There's a quarrel between them. There's a fight. There's no peace. There's no harmony. Behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. I've enjoyed myself. I've got this boy is going to be born. And when Sarai dealt hardly with her, she fled from her face. You see? No peace, no harmony, nothing. For all those days, it's going to be like that. How can somebody change that? Jeremiah 17 verse 9 say, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Why did you ask Abram to go in? Why did Abram go in? Why is Hagar like that? It's all because of what's happening in their hearts. It's the desires in their hearts, and she was carnal. And Hagar had her way. What's inside us cannot be concealed forever. If you turn a bottle of vinegar, yes?
So what is meant by Hagar had it her way?
Hagar had it her way. On the way that she had the child, and she had it her way because she mocked also on and she was thinking she was the best in the house at that moment because it's my child. The things are going her way and not the way that the Lord wants it to be. Okay? So if you take a bottle of vinegar and you turn it upside down, what will come out of it?
Vinegar.
Why not syrup?
Because it's not in it.
It's not in it. If you turn a man upside down, and what's coming in out of my heart? Vinegar. Or if it's honey, it will be honey. I always say syrup, whatever. Yeah. So I always say that you taste the taste of something and you taste the smell of something when you crush it. When I crush a rose, what do you smell? A rose. Okay? And then in South Africa we've got kakibos. I don't know what you call it here, but it's a kind of plant that grows in in the wild, it's got a funny, ugly smell. But if you crushed it, you smell that. So if you crush somebody, pardon? Kaki?
No,
Kijk maar
you
hier.
can hear the
Kijk, noem maar hokje.
Yeah. So if you, it's not when somebody is doing good to you that you smell somebody, but when something is going wrong, when somebody steps on you, that's what's the smells that comes out. So now, while things were going okay with the slave in the house and everything was fine, everybody was happy, but now things are getting rough. And now you see what is in the heart of Abram, what is in the heart of Sarai, what is in the heart of Hagar. But how do you think Hagar must have felt? Because now Abram and Sarai is standing together, and he said to her, you do with Hagar whatever you like. And sometimes the Christian believers do wrong to the unsaved people by the way they live, the way they treat them, because of their carnality, because of the flesh, what I want to do. But God is, however, is greater than the flesh. And you see Hagar walked away into the desert. She sent her into the desert and said, you go and you take, I don't want to see you again. And she sends her back to the idols of Egypt on the broad road. It was unfair. You can't listen now, you can't make one thing right with two wrongs. There was a wrong in their house, and they're doing another wrong thing, sending her away. You can't do that. So you can't do two wrongs to try and do one thing right. But there was someone that has seen everything. And who was that? It was God. And the most interesting, if you read in that chapter, in verse 17, then the angel of the Lord, that's what when Hagar went into the desert back to Egypt. And the angel of the Lord mentioned for the first time was in fact Jesus, who showed himself to her the slave, and not to Abram and Sarai. God's love includes everyone. So when you read about the angel of the Lord in the Bible, like it's written there, it always shows it was Jesus as the person, not the Father, but the Son, appearing to her in the desert. And verse 8, he called her, listen, if you read verse 8, he called her by her name. And he also called her Sarai's maid. You are still the maid of Sarai. That's your position. And now God opened the old sores, all the things that hurt her when she was in the house of Abram and Sarai. And look what he asked her. Where do you come from and where are you going? Ahead of her lies the broad road, and the back lies the road back to the house of Abram, the narrow road of self-pity, and to go back to her mistress. Where to must she go? Yes, sorry.
Why does God call her a slave of Sarai?
Because she was the slave of Sarai.
Yeah, okay. You could only say also Hagar.
Pardon?
You could also only say Hagar.
Yeah,
By the name.
but he wants her to know who she is, to humble herself and say, you must remember who you are, the position that you are in that house. And you are going back into that position to the house.
Okay.
That's why he called the slave, not, he said Hagar. Okay? Where to must she go? To your mistress and submit thyself. Verse 10 said, and I will. Being saved but without hope is of no use, but if you don't return, there is no hope. Then you get to verse 11 and verse 12. Just a question, did anyone ever regret turning back? That is a type of the unsaved person that walks away from the Lord and don't want to do the things the Lord, and don't want to submit under the Lord, turning back to where the Lord wants her to be. Then you get to verse 11 and 12, the promise and prophecy regarding a future. He said, you will have a future. The children and Ismail is what that will be born after that. And verse 13 to 16, she obeyed the Lord. But that's not the message I want to talk to you on. I want to talk on the potential of faith. Now, there were 13 years of silence, and then came the unique meeting. Why is it that God is silent in some times? Why does everything seem to go wrong at times? Why is it that I cannot triumph over sin and live my life victoriously? The reason is, sometimes God first wants me to absorb all the things that I have learned. Sometimes He will put me through tribulation. Sometimes He wants to learn me through somebody else. Sometimes I have to come to this college. Sometimes whatever happens to my life, God is using that in my life. Even the sorrows, like I've said yesterday, I think it was yesterday, don't waste your sorrows. Don't waste the things that God is doing in your life. Don't waste the time of teaching. Don't waste the time of quiet time. Use it in your life to become what God wants you to be. I want to use the example of a butterfly. You know what a butterfly is? And before it gets a butterfly, what is it before it gets a butterfly? It first is a worm, okay? And the worm changes to a caterpillar, yeah. A caterpillar, and then it became what they call a cocoon. And in South Africa we've got these caterpillars that's spinning, and they're spinning on, and they use it as fish, you know, they spin, and it makes a nice mat or something that you get from it. But after that, it spins itself completely into that cocoon. And inside of that cocoon is this thing, and then there comes a time that he starts to chew a small hole. And then you see he will come out of that hole. But he struggles to get out of that hole. It's not easy for him to get out of that hole. But when you take a scissor and you cut it open and you let him out, his wings don't develop. His body don't develop. Because of that pressure that he went through that small little hole, makes that the blood goes through his veins and through his wings, and that makes that struggle makes that he can become the beautiful butterfly, whatever you call it. Without that struggle, it's not going to be that butterfly. So God always uses things in our lives. You think about the people when they were in Egypt, the 40 years in the desert, not in Egypt, but in the desert. Why were they in the desert? The Lord said in Deuteronomium, that's another funny name, 8 verse 2, and thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness. Why? To do what? To humble thee and to prove thee, to know that was in thine heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or not. During the 13 years, Abram saw the product of his flesh growing. The product of his flesh for 13 years is growing bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. In chapter 17, when we come to chapter 17 we can say is written in big red letters for the change that came. The potential of the faith. That is the crisis we can call in the life of Abram. The entire future was determined here, and the potential of his faith we find in chapter 17. What happened in chapter 17? The potential of my faith lies in who God is, not in what my faith is. So, when you read 2 Timothy 2 verse 13, if we believe not, yet he abideth faithful, he cannot deny himself. Sometimes I come to a place with all the things that happen to me, I say, can I still believe? Is it possible that God can use me? But God is faithful. Remember this, once caught, no escape. Will you remember it? You can run, but you cannot hide. You can try to run from God, but when God's got you in His hands, He sees the potential of your faith, because He said there was a connection between me and you in the past. And as from that time there was some high times and low times and ups and downs. And now at this moment you are trusting me, but I am taking you where I want you to be, and I want to change you the way I want to change you. And I want to make out of you what I've got in my heart for you. So He is faithful. In that lies the potential of my faith. What happened to Abram and Sarah? What changed? Their names changed. Do you know it? Why did the Lord, He changed their names in Genesis 17. Abram to Abraham, and Sarah he to Sarah with an H after it. And the H in Abram's life name, and the H in Sarai's name, the H is the 8th letter in the Hebrew. And what is the 8th letter standing for? A new beginning. You've got 7 days of the week, and the 8th day is the new day of a new beginning. Even in the music, if you say do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, it's another chorus. It's a higher one. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, and you go up and up and up and up and up. So you've got 7, and then the 8th one is the new one. Robert?
Yeah, it's kind of like you said that the 8th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is the H.
Yeah. Yeah, the H is for Abraham, Sarah with an H.
So would you think in Hebrew it's also with the H, because in Dutch it's not with an H?
No, it's not. No, not in Dutch, but in the Hebrew, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The letter that's in the name of Abraham and Sarah is the 8th. The 8th letter. So now we come to the promise. It comes to the promise of God to Abram. Abram, what must be done? Abram, you must be circumcised. And the circumcision was the covenant of the Lord with Abram, to make him completely different from the other people. Okay? So you know what the circumcision is? We're not going to talk about it, and we're not going to speak about it, but you know what it is, okay? Good. You understand? Up to now, listen. Up to chapter 16. You've heard the voice of the Lord. There was ups, there was downs, everything that happened. But all that Abram could show up to now was the things that was produced after the flesh. And what was that? Ishmael. There was no future for him up to chapter 16. The promises of God was not there, and he didn't see anything. And after after 13 years, Abram fathomed, he realized his position before God. There is no fruit in his life after all these years, and that is the very problem of many people. And what is the answer to this, Abram? The circumcision. It is the death sentence to the flesh. It is the beginning of a new era in your life, Robert.
In what sentence is it the death sentence unto the flesh?
Because his flesh has got to be cut. It's a sign of, it's the end of your, not the flesh, the fleshly life, the life that you have lived by yourself, making your decisions, going into Hagar. And a lot of his decisions up to that was his decisions. I'm not going into Canaan, I'm going to Egypt, and all the things he's done out of the flesh, of the things that he thinks the best is. So, but when we came to the circumcision, you will see now what happened after that. And that's a truth in our spiritual lives that we must see. Okay? You look at how many desire a new beginning. So why 8 days? 8 is a number of the new beginning. It also applies to music, and I've already told that to you. And then you read in Deuteronomy 10 verse 12, circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart and be no more stiff-necked. So you use the circumcision of Abram for the circumcision of our hearts. There must happen something in my heart. After I've met the Lord, while I was walking with the Lord, while I was serving the Lord, and the most of the things I'm doing is out of the flesh. I don't hear the voice, I hear the voice of God, but I'm not walking with Him. Yes, Jan?
Stiff-necked, you can also say stubborn. Or not?
Stubborn, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm stubborn. You know, I'm not going to listen to you. I'll do it my way.
Yeah.
Okay? Again in Deuteronomy 30 verse 6 it said, and the Lord thy God will circumcise thy heart. Using the example of the circumcision that started with Abram, that changed his whole life. And the heart of thy seed, to what? To love the Lord thy God with all thine heart and all thy soul and all thy mayest live. I'm on page 6, I've got a lot to say, but you can you give me 2 minutes?
Yes.
You want to go? You can go. Okay, let's just quickly go through. You can go. Yeah, you may go if you want to go.
No, if you have more to say.
It was a half minute.
Okay, I'm not going to read that. In Jeremiah 4 verse 4 you read about that, the circumcision. Matthew 5 verse 8, Matthew 6:28, you get the lectures. Okay, all this, you'll get the lectures. But I'll have to go past that.
So we can let it go then.
Okay. I just want to see, was it the simplest thing or easy for Abram to be circumcised?
No.
No. What was it? Abram was confronted with a crisis, the circumcision. And the circumcision for him was strange. It was humiliating. It was sharp and painful and an unforgettable experience in his life. So what am I saying? There come a time in my life, and we'll see it in our next lecture. There comes a time in my life that I ask the Lord, you must circumcise my heart. After years of walking with the Lord, there comes a time in my heart, in my life, I said, Lord, I look at my life. I see no fruit. The only fruit I see is the poor people that is ruined. People don't get changed. My life is not changed. People's lives don't get changed because of my own heart that's unclean. There's still something in my heart. And I want you to circumcise, and that's what the Lord said, circumcise your hearts before the Lord. And that's what David called out in Psalm 51. Clean my heart and change my heart. The people that's born again don't know what is in their heart, and after a period of time, just like Abram, they came to the fact and they realized all that I can show is from the flesh. And when the Lord changed my heart, and we will see it in the next lecture, I got a life of prayer and walking with the Lord. Thank you.
Amen.